All right. So today we're going to do a deep dive into Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. We've got this YouTube video that summarizes all the laws directly from the source. And I got to tell you, this stuff's pretty intense.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
like we're getting this like behind the scenes look at how influence and like strategy really work.
Yeah.
So like 48 laws though, that's a lot to cover. Like where do we even begin with that?
Well, I think what's so fascinating about Greene's work is that he just kind of lays out these almost like universal truths about power dynamics. Things that have probably been in play for centuries, but we just don't really acknowledge them out loud. He's
Yeah.
not really sugarcoating anything.
No, no, he's not. Okay, so let's jump right in then with like a classic example. Law one, never outshine the master. Like that whole don't make your boss feel insecure thing.
Right.
But like, couldn't that backfire though? Like, what if you do want to climb the ladder?
Well, that's where I think the subtlety comes in. It's like you can demonstrate your competence without making it a direct threat. If you think of someone like, say, Elizabeth I, she had to navigate, a treacherous court where appearing too ambitious could have been like literally fatal.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. So it's more about like strategic self-presentation.
Exactly. Like Elizabeth was known for her intelligence, obviously, but she also played the role of the, vulnerable queen who needed the support of her advisors. So she never directly challenged the power of those around her, even while she was, consolidating her own authority.
Wow, that's a really good historical parallel. It's like she was playing 4D chess while everyone else was stuck playing checkers.
Right.
Okay. But what about making friends and connections, though? Isn't that like networking 101?
Well, Law 2 kind of throws a wrench in that whole idea and never put too much trust in friends. Greene argues that envy and competition can actually poison even the closest relationships, especially when power is involved.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a little cynical, isn't it?
Maybe, but it's worth considering. Think about it. Who is more likely to be truly loyal to you? Someone who's already proven their allegiance, even if they were once an adversary, or someone who might secretly envy your success?
Hmm. Okay, yeah, I see what you mean. So it's not about like shunning all friendships, but it's about being realistic about the potential for conflict.
Exactly. And this kind of leads into another law that flips the script on that traditional advice. It's Law 13, when asking for help appeal to people's self-interest. So it's not about guilt trips or reminding people of past favors. It's about showing them how helping you benefits them.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a bit Machiavellian. But I can see how it's effective. People are more likely to act when they see something in it for themselves.
Right.
So far, this is making me rethink my entire approach to like everything.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we've got to talk about reputation. Think about how much rides on a person's reputation, especially like in today's hyper-connected world. I mean, that's what Law 5 is all about. So much depends on reputation.
Yeah.
It's like that saying, your reputation precedes you, but like, how do you even build a strong reputation in the first place?
Well, Greene would say it's a combination of actions and perception. So you need to deliver on your promises, but you also need to cultivate an image that commands respect and attention.
Okay, so that brings us to Law 6, court attention at all costs. So is this where we get into like the whole any publicity is good publicity territory?
Not necessarily. It's not about being outrageous, just for the sake of it. It's more about understanding how to stand out from the crowd and make a lasting impression. Think of it like personal branding, but on a grander scale.
Ooh, okay. So it's about crafting a persona that's both memorable and aligned with your goal.
Exactly. It's about knowing how to play to your strengths, highlight your achievements, and just create a narrative that draws people in.
This is making me think about those like larger-than-life historical figures who just seem to command attention effortlessly, like people like Cleopatra or Napoleon. They knew how to work a room, or a battlefield for that matter.
Right. They understood the power of image and spectacle. But it's not always about being flashy. Sometimes the most effective strategy is to actually withdraw strategically, which is what Law 16 is all about. Use absence to increase respect and honor.
Oh, the classic play hard to get approach. But does that actually work in every situation?
Well, think of it this way. Scarcity increases value. By making yourself less available, you kind of create a sense of mystery and desirability. It's like that limited additional product that everyone's like clamoring to get their hands on.
Yeah, okay, I see what you mean. It's like you're creating a demand by limiting the supply.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about image and reputation, but what about taking action? At some point, you have to put these laws into practice.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where Law 9 comes in. Win through your actions, never through argument. It's a reminder that talk is cheap. You need to prove your worth through tangible results.
Hmm. Actions speak louder than words, right?
Exactly. Imagine trying to convince someone that you're a great chef by just like describing your cooking. It's much more effective to actually let them taste the food for themselves.
Yeah. So it's about showing, not telling.
Precisely. And in order to make those actions count, you need to gather information. And that's where Law 14 comes in. Pose as a friend, work as a spy.
Okay. This is where it gets a little bit sneaky, right?
Can be, but Greene is advocating for strategic observation. Paying close attention to the people around you, understanding their motivations and their weaknesses.
Right. So it's about like reading people, understanding their psychology, and then using that knowledge to your advantage.
Right. But it's important to be mindful of the ethical implications here. There's a fine line between observation and manipulation, and you don't want to cross that line.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And it's a good reminder that like not all of these laws are meant to be taken literally. It's more about understanding the underlying principles and then applying them in a way that aligns with your own values.
Right.
This is making me realize how much I actually don't know about the people I interact with, like on a daily basis.
And that's exactly why Law 19 is so crucial. Know who you're dealing with. You can't apply the same tactics to everyone. What works on one person might completely backfire on another.
Right, right. So it's about understanding individual psychology and then tailoring your approach accordingly.
Exactly. People are motivated by different things. Some people are driven by fear, others by greed, some by a desire for approval. You need to figure out what makes each person tick in order to effectively influence them.
Wow, this is like giving me a whole new perspective on human interactions. Like I'm seeing the world through a different lens.
Yeah.
Okay, let's talk about self-creation for a second. Can we actually like shape our own destiny? Or are we just playing the hand we're dealt? Where does that fit into all of this?
Well, Greene would argue that self-creation is essential for achieving power. Law 25, recreate yourself. It's all about taking control of your narrative and crafting an image that serves your goals.
It's like that idea of fake it till you make it, but with a more like strategic purpose.
It's more about evolving into the person that you want to become while being mindful of how others perceive that transformation. It's not about being inauthentic. It's about consciously shaping your persona to align with your ambitions.
So it's about personal growth, but with a strategic eye towards how that growth is perceived by the outside world.
Exactly. It's about understanding that perception is reality, and that by consciously shaping your image, you can influence how others see you and ultimately how they treat you.
Okay. That's pretty profound stuff.
And once you've established that image, you need to learn how to subtly influence the choices of others. That's where Law 31 comes in. Control the options.
Oh, okay. This sounds like something straight out of like a political strategist's playbook.
It is. It's the art of framing choices in a way that nudges people towards the outcome that you desire. Even if they think B, they're making a free and independent decision.
Wow. Can you give me like a real world example of that? I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it.
Sure. Imagine you're a manager and you're trying to get your team to embrace a new project. You could just like assign it to them, but that might breed resentment.
Oh, yeah. Nobody likes being told what to do.
Right. So instead, you present it as an opportunity, highlighting the potential benefits and giving the team the choice of which aspects they want to focus on. They feel empowered, but you've subtly steered them towards the outcome that you wanted all along.
That's brilliant. It's like giving them the illusion of choice while still maintaining control over the overall direction.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how these laws can be applied in so many different areas of life, from personal relationships to business negotiations to even just like navigating social situations.
Absolutely.
And we've only scratched the surface here. With these first 16 laws, there are still 32 more to go.
A lot more to unpack.
Oh yeah, so join us for part 2 of this deep dive, where we'll continue our exploration of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power and uncover even more strategies for understanding and navigating this complex world of power dynamics. This is a journey you won't want to miss. Okay, so welcome back to our deep dive into Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. Last time we were talking about Law 31, control the options, that whole like give people choices but secretly steer them thing. It's kind of mind-bending.
Yeah.
What other strategies from Greene really challenge like conventional wisdom about power.
Hmm. Well, one that often surprises people is Law 28 enter action with boldness. It seems counterintuitive, but Greene argues that hesitation can actually be more damaging than making a bold move, even if it's not perfect.
Oh, really? So it's better to just take action, even if there's a chance of making a mistake, than to get stuck like overthinking things. But isn't that a bit risky?
Well, there's always risk involved, but Greene believes that momentum and confidence are key. Think of it like a startup launching a new product. They might not have all the kinks worked out, but getting it into the market quickly allows them to gather feedback and iterate.
Okay, so it's like learning by doing and adapting as you go.
Exactly. And that doesn't mean rushing in blindly. That's where Law 29 comes in. Plan all the way to the end.
Ah, so boldness with a roadmap.
Precisely. Greene emphasizes the importance of having a clear vision of your goal and anticipating potential obstacles. He's all about calculated risk, not recklessness.
It's like that saying, measure twice, cut once, but applied to everything.
Right.
Okay, so we've got boldness and planning covered. What else does Greene highlight?
Well, something that's often overlooked is the power of making your accomplishments seem effortless. That's Law 30. Make your accomplishments seem effortless.
So it's like that effortless chic thing, but for achievements.
In a way, yes. Greene argues that concealing the effort behind your success creates an aura of mastery. Think of a skilled athlete who makes a difficult move look easy. It's the result of years of training, but the audience only sees the effortless execution.
Right, it's like watching the figure skater just glide across the ice. It seems so graceful and effortless, but, there's like incredible strength and precision behind it.
Yeah, exactly.
What other strategies kind of play on this idea of perception?
Law 32 plays to people's fantasies. Greene argues that people are drawn to those who can offer them an escape from the mundane. He believes that by tapping into people's desires and aspirations, you can gain immense influence.
Okay, so it's about understanding what people want and then giving them a taste of it, even if it's just an illusion.
Exactly. Think about the entertainment industry. Movies, music, books, they all offer us a chance to escape into different worlds and live out our fantasies, even if just for a little while.
Yeah, that's a good point. Even something like social media, with those carefully curated profiles, it kind of plays into this idea of presenting an idealized version of reality.
Right.
Okay, so we've got boldness, planning, effortlessness, and fantasy. Are there any laws that focus on more like direct forms of persuasion?
Yeah. Law 43, work on the hearts and minds of others, is all about the power of seduction. Greene argues that force might get you temporary compliance, but it breeds resentment. Seduction, on the other hand, wins over hearts and minds.
Okay, so it's about persuasion rather than coercion.
Precisely. Think of a leader who inspires their followers through their vision and charisma. They're not forcing people to comply. They're drawing them in with their passion and conviction.
Right. It's like the difference between a dictator and a truly inspiring leader. One rules through fear, while the other inspires through shared values and goals.
Exactly.
Okay, this is making me rethink my entire approach to leadership. I've always focused on logic and reason, but maybe there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I think logic and reason are important, but don't underestimate the power of emotions. People are driven by their feelings, and if you can connect with them on an emotional level, you'll be far more persuasive.
That's a good reminder for all of us, not just those in leadership positions. Understanding the emotional needs of the people we interact with can make us more effective communicators in all areas of life.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've talked about boldness, planning, and even seduction. But the world is constantly changing, right? How does Greene address that in his laws?
Well, Law 48, assume formlessness, highlights the importance of adaptability. Greene argues that clinging to rigid plans can make you vulnerable to unexpected changes. Instead, you need to be like water, flowing around obstacles and adapting to the terrain.
So it's about being flexible and responsive to change.
Exactly. Think of a company that fails to adapt to new technologies or changing consumer preferences. They might have been successful in the past, but their rigidity ultimately leads to their downfall.
Yeah, that's happening all the time these days. Companies that were once giants are struggling to keep up with the pace of innovation.
Right, and it's not just about external changes. It's also about being willing to adapt your own approach as you gain experience and knowledge.
So it's about continuous learning and self-improvement.
Exactly. You never want to stop growing and evolving.
This is all making me realize how important it is to stay humble and be open to new ideas. The moment you think you have it all figured out is the moment you become vulnerable.
I think that's a great insight. And it ties into Law 47. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. Knowing when to stop is just as important as knowing when to push forward.
That sounds like a valuable lesson, especially in today's world where everyone is constantly striving for more.
It's easy to get caught up in the pursuit of success and lose sight of your original goals. Greene cautions against overreaching and emphasizes the importance of knowing when you've achieved what you set out to do.
Yeah, it's like that saying, quit while you're ahead. Sometimes the smartest move is to consolidate your gains and step back before you risk losing it all.
Right.
We've covered a lot of ground in this part of our deep dive, from boldness and planning to adaptability and knowing when to stop. Greene's laws offer a fascinating perspective on the dynamics of power. So join us for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore even more of Greene's strategies and delve into the complexities of power dynamics in different areas of life. This is a conversation you won't want to miss. Welcome back to our deep dive into Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. We've explored some, fascinating, and let's be honest, sometimes a bit unsettling strategies for navigating this world of power dynamics.
Yeah, for sure.
But there's one big question we haven't really tackled yet. What about the ethical implications of using these laws? It feels like there's this fine line between strategic thinking and just straight-up manipulation.
That's a question that's been debated ever since Greene's book came out. Some people see it as a guide to ruthless ambition, while others view it as a more neutral exploration of how power works.
Right. So where do you stand on that? Is Greene advocating for a Machiavellian approach, or is it more about self-awareness and defense?
I think it's more nuanced than that. Greene himself has said that. His goal was to present these laws as observations, not endorsements. It's up to the individual to decide how they want to apply this knowledge.
So it's like a toolkit, and you have to choose the right tool for the job while also being mindful of the potential consequences.
Exactly. Some of these laws can be used in ways that are definitely ethically questionable, while others are more about understanding human nature and protecting yourself from those who might use those tactics against you.
Right. Okay, so let's dive into some specific examples. Law 7, get others to do the work for you, but always take the credit. That one, immediately raised a red flag for me.
Yeah, it does sound a bit shady, doesn't it? But think about it. In the context of leadership, a good leader delegates tasks effectively, but they also take responsibility for the outcome, whether it's success or failure.
So it's not about, taking credit for someone else's work, but it's about recognizing that as a leader, you're ultimately accountable for the results.
Right. It's about leveraging the strengths of your team while also understanding that the buck stops with you.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It's about leadership, not exploitation.
Right.
Okay, what about Law 10? Infection, avoid the unhappy and unlucky. That one seems particularly harsh. Is Greene saying that we should, abandon our friends when they're down on their luck?
I don't think that's the message. It's more about recognizing that. Negativity can be contagious. Spending too much time around people who are constantly complaining or dwelling on their misfortunes can drain your energy and affect your own outlook.
So it's about protecting your own mental and emotional well-being.
Exactly. It's not about being heartless, but it's about setting boundaries and recognizing that you can't save everyone.
That's a really good point. Sometimes the best way to help someone is to be positive and focused on your own goals rather than getting sucked into their negativity.
Right.
Okay, here's one that I'm still struggling with. Law 15, crush your enemy. Totally, that sounds brutal. Is Greene advocating for all-out war in every situation?
I think it's more about being decisive and thorough when dealing with conflicts or challenges. If you leave a problem unresolved, it can fester and come back to haunt you.
So it's about eliminating the root cause of a problem rather than just treating the symptoms.
Exactly. Think of it like dealing with a persistent weed in your garden. You can keep trimming it back, but until you pull it out by the roots, it's going to keep coming back.
That's a great analogy. It's about being strategic and recognizing that sometimes the kindest approach is to be firm and decisive.
Right.
Okay, so we've talked about some of the more ethically ambiguous laws, but are there any that offer a more positive perspective on power?
Oh, absolutely. Several of Greene's laws emphasize the importance of personal growth and self-mastery. For example, Law 21, play a sucker to catch a sucker, is about using humility and strategic vulnerability to disarm your opponents.
Oh, so it's about playing dumb to outsmart your rivals.
It's more about recognizing that people egos can be their downfall. By making them feel smarter or more powerful, you can lull them into a false sense of security.
Right. It's like that saying, pride comes before a fall.
Exactly. And this ties into Law 22. Use the surrender tactic, transform weakness into power. It's about recognizing that sometimes yielding can be a strategic advantage.
Hmm. So it's about choosing your battles wisely and knowing when to step back in order to gain, like, a tactical advantage.
Exactly. It's about being flexible and adaptable, rather than letting your ego dictate your actions.
It's like that martial arts principle of using your opponent's strength against them.
Exactly. By yielding, you can redirect their force and ultimately gain control of the situation.
This has been like an incredibly eye-opening exploration of Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. We've seen how these laws can be applied in a variety of contexts, from personal relationships to business negotiations to even just like understanding historical figures and events.
Yeah.
It's clear that power is a complex and multifaceted force, and Greene's work offers a valuable framework for understanding its dynamics.
I think the most important takeaway is that knowledge is power. The more you understand the principles at play, the better equipped you'll be to navigate the world around you and make informed choices about how you want to wield power or defend yourself against those who might misuse it.
That's a powerful message to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into Robert Greene's 48 Laws of Power. We hope you found it as thought-provoking and insightful as we have. Remember, these laws are just tools. Use them wisely, and always be mindful of the impact your actions have on others. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and stay empowered. 7-2 Law.